What's going on, everyone? This is Dr. Todd and Jenna from the Move Now Chiropractor, episode 289, right?
Yes.
289. So Jenna is my assistant. She's much more than just an assistant. I've told her many times if she quits, I'm closing the clinic. And she's on the episode today because she's going to talk about a little bit about her history and really what she does on a daily basis. Because if you're a chiropractor, you want a clone of Jenna. And we have some solutions coming soon on how to do that. So you're definitely going to want to hear this. Let's roll the intro and then we're going to get right into it. Here's what so many chiropractors have been searching for. How can we expand our clinical reach by finally addressing more than just the segmental component with our patients, but at the same time, not feel like we are selling out our chiropractic principles? The reality is our patients count on us to guide them. And when it comes to results, we must also address their posture and their movement. The verdict is out. Patients have spoken, and this is what they want and what they need, focusing on functional movement and corrective exercise. So how do we practice in a way where our community is engaged, excited, and seeking us out because of this comprehensive, results-based approach? That's the goal we've all been searching for, and this podcast will show you how. My name is Dr. Todd Pickman, and welcome to the Move Now Chiropractor. All right, we are back. So again, this is Jenna, and I'm Dr. Todd here, the Move Now Chiropractor. If you've watched our show before, we have a lot of episodes. I mean, we're on 289. We've been doing this for a while. We're doing higher quality stuff now. We got 2 camera angles over here. We got it all recorded on awesome audio. I got the home setup. Jenna's over at my house before our shift today. She's got her scrubs on. I'm still in my sweatpants. And later today, we're going to be seeing patients. So she's coming over to do this. We'll probably run for about an hour. We have an outline of some things we're going to cover. And this is good for you as a chiropractor to listen to, but also for your staff, especially this episode, because Jenna is pretty much our assistant manager in the clinic. She's like, when Danny is not in-house, she's our in-person, person to be able to execute and get stuff going. On recent episodes, previous episodes, you'll see Danny talked about hybrid office manager and how that works. And it works really well when you have someone that's seasoned in the clinic like Jenna is, who can help put out the fires when the person isn't there, like when our office manager isn't there in person, even though Jenna doesn't necessarily like doing that all the time. She does it anyway. So anyway, with that said, Jenna, why don't you tell the audience out there a little bit about you and how you came to work at the clinic?
Awesome. Well, my name's Jenna. I've been working at Gonstead Spine and Wellness it'll be 3 years in February.
Wow.
I feel like I've been saying 2.5 years for a while now, but it's almost 3 years, which is crazy. It just jumped to 3.
Yes. That's cool. Wow.
But anyway, so prior to applying at the clinic, I was working in a nursing facility. I was going to Boise State, getting my bachelor's degree in health science, and I was on the path to go to PA school. So as I was working at the nursing facility, I was ready to expand my patient experience. Really, it was like a selfish move to apply at the clinic because I wanted to get better patient experience, like a different type of patient experience, hands-on, just something different than what I was doing.
So like selfish move because you planned to come in, just work for a little bit and then...
Not necessarily, more like I was like, how can I better myself as an applicant for PA school?
Well, I don't think that's so selfish. That's just strategic with a good goal of getting to PA school and having a good education and having a good future. Yeah.
And initially I didn't know how long I was going to work at the clinic, but I applied. Well, first when I found the position online, I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I didn't have any experience with chiropractic. I saw that you guys were offering X-ray training, on-site training, and then that would be part of my position. And I just thought overall it sounded really great and different. And I was fascinated with the clinic. I looked at the website, watched a bunch of videos, and I was like, this is different than anything I've ever done or experienced myself. And so I thought it'd be amazing. And so I applied, went through the interview process, got hired, and off to the races. But then that was February 2020, and we all know what happened in March.
Yeah.
COVID happened. So it drastically kind of slowed down the training process because there was so much unknown, but it was great for me because as my position there is being Scribe, new patient coordinator, and X-ray specialist. So it was kind of 3 hats in one. And so it gave me an opportunity to really dive deep into each one. But even without that, the training setup prior, I feel like what am I trying to say? The material setup for my training, for my position, really set me up for success.
So share that, because, you know, in the past, we didn't have really like written or video training material. When you came in, a lot of that was developed. It wasn't all perfectly developed. I know that you've helped even take it and move it further, which, just to tell the audience as a little sneak peek, and hopefully we'll have time to get into it today. Part of our dream and our goal here, part of Jenna's dream and goal, and I think her strengths, she should be teaching this stuff. She should be teaching other chiropractic clinics and other scribes and other assistants on how to get up to par, because she really does a very excellent job doing this. And part of that's her personality, part of that's just her work ethic, but it's also the systems and the training and now her expertise. Like, she can run a lot of what we do on a daily basis. It can be duplicated to other people. Right. So now backing up, when Jenna came in, what resources did you have? I don't even remember what was there. I remember we had like a manual for, right? Right.
So we had the clinic manual, we had a Scribe manual, but the biggest thing was the girl who had the position before me, Kaylee, because I think she was the first one that really was all 3-in-1. You guys kind of merged a couple different positions to create what I am now, which I think is very doable. And I think it was a smart move for you guys to do all 3-in-1, meaning Scribe, new patient coordinator, and x-ray specialist. So she created a binder for me, and it outlaid everything. And so I use that, and I've added onto it quite a bit as we've changed some of our systems, and we've added a few things. But that, with examples of certain things, laid out instructions, how to know, like, there was just so much in there. I could really go into detail about it, but it would take a long time because there's just so much in that binder. But that plus the Scribe manual really set me up for success.
Yeah. And prior, you know, Jenna's mentioning our prior Scribe, which was Kaylee. So when Kaylee was working there, we actually had another guy, Sam, who was our x-ray, like our x-ray guy and new patient coordinator. That was only his role. The problem is Sam didn't have enough to do all the time, because like if we didn't have a new patient or we didn't have a lot of new patients that week, it was like trying to find him stuff to do. And, you know, he was eager and willing to do it, but it was just excessively staffed, I think. Exactly. And then the problem was having to then relay the information from him to the Scribe and figure out that connection.
Yeah.
And so it's like, in some cases, having too many staff or having too many positions spread out just actually accounts for more work at the end of the day, versus finding someone who can balance it all, prioritize and execute it all, do it all. And then it's one person that's doing it. Also having a backup person, though, if that person needs to go out of town or is sick or something as well, which we kind of have that too, right?
Yes. And with Emily, I mean, Emily knows a lot of what I do. We're actually doing some x-ray analysis training right now with her, which she's been catching on really quick. But I think that binder and just having, which just to correct terminology, it's x-ray marking. Yes. Sorry.
Yes. Because technically the analysis is done by the doctor. The marking, though, is done by the team. Right. And I'll tell you, Jenna marks x-rays. So she identifies anatomical points, puts markings on them. We have two different systems that we use. One is our Gonstead analysis. So it's just very objective line marking. I mean, well, at first it's subjective. It becomes objective once you've looked at 10,000 x-rays. Yeah. And I think at this point, you've probably marked 1,000 x-rays at least.
Be fun to count.
Yeah, but it's probably 1,000 because you think of all the new patients, you think of all the comparative x-rays, you think
random
of all
random x-rays of patients who have been coming in for years that just need new ones.
Yeah. So Jenna is definitely better at taking x-ray than I am at this point. And like when I need to fill in and take an x-ray, I'm like wiping off the cobwebs because like I haven't taken one in months and months, and she does this on a regular basis. So it's marking points using Gonstead analysis, which is pelvic analysis, and then marking some other things primarily on the AP, right? And then chiropractic biophysics analysis, we use posture ray. And so that's also something that definitely takes skill to understand how to do that. Jenna's really good at that. So much so that I would say she's probably our gold standard in the clinic as far as x-ray marking, above and beyond me, and even above and beyond Dr. Zach in some cases. No offense to Dr. Zach, but it's just that Jenna has done so many of them. And yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking if I should take that back on Dr. Zach. Sorry, Dr. Zach. But it's like on flexion extension x-rays and looking at rotation, I think it's just, I've spent so much time kind of nitpicking.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. So it's like, you'll mark it and I'll be like, see that line? Move that off a little bit.
And that's why when I train, as I'm training Emily and as I've trained staff in the past on how to mark x-rays, I always say, like, I'm still learning. I've been here for a couple of years and I'm still learning, because there'll still be certain things that need correcting, and I'm all for it. And I enjoy that, because it's not a one size fits all with x-ray. And we've even have people ask us in the past, like, isn't there just like a program that'll mark it for you? And you could say, yeah, but it's just not unique, because everyone's different. Position can be a little bit different. It can cause vertebra to look different. So
yeah. So, okay. I cut you off on when you were talking about marking x-ray and Emily, and you're going through some stuff like that.
So I was going to say, the binder that I have for when I go out of town, or if I need someone to fill in for me, it is that having proper training tools, like a manual, this binder that I've been referencing, that allows for anyone just to open it up, and it's very obvious of how to chart notes, how to prep certain materials, like for a goals appointment, for re-reports. Gosh, there's just so many things, but it outlays everything. So anyone can open up that binder, even if that's not their position, and pretty much be able to figure it out, with, of course, having you check certain things, but it makes everyone's lives easier.
So my thought is, obviously our audience for this podcast, whether you're listening to the audio, you're watching the video on YouTube or some other link, our audience varies between members of Move Now University that are following our systems and have put a lot of this stuff in place, to members that have just barely put a couple things in place, to non-members that are trying to pick up tips and maybe are figuring out if this is a system that would work for them. Now, I'm biased, but I feel like our systems are as dialed in as you could possibly have dialed in any chiropractic clinic. Like, I have not seen any better for how we practice. Now, we don't practice simplistic chiropractic and we're just doing adjusting. We're adjusting and we're doing specific rehab. It's not one size fits all generic rehab. So it's all dialed into the individual. So it's like 3 clinics in one. We're doing specific adjusting. We're doing curve correction with chiropractic biophysics, and then functional movement, which involves doing a movement assessment and then prescribing various tracks of movement protocols to fix those dysfunctions. And all that happens together, and the team executes it together, and we have it highly documented, and it moves fairly smoothly most of the time. Like, I feel like it's pretty hard for someone to complain about how things flow in our clinic. It's like, it's fairly smooth. Patients usually don't wait very long, unless maybe it's their first couple of visits prior to getting everything mapped out. And most importantly, the results are really great, and patients feel like they're well tended to, and they've been taught things that they could use for the rest of their life. So in previous podcasts or videos, I've talked about this, that obviously we didn't open our doors and have all this stuff in place on day one. We built it, and it was like working tirelessly to put the systems together. And I think the thing that drove me to build it and enhance it and improve it was, I would literally lay in bed at night and I'd be like, okay, there's still this piece that's missing. There's this that's missing. There's this part that a patient needs. There's this unknown. And so then we'd have to create another system to fill that void, until you finally got to the point where you're like, I feel like we got like 95% of it covered, right? Like, there's always little tweaks we can do to make it better, but like, the foundation is there. It's solid. That's what you came into, and then helped even run it even smoother.
Right. And I was going to say, it's nice coming into a clinic where when you already have systems dialed in, it also allows for a little bit of tweaks and changes here and there, which there hasn't been much, but there's just little things here and there that I can think of that we've added to or changed.
Like virtual appointments
which has been amazing.
Yeah. Which
for everyone,
I've done past podcasts on the virtual appointments. So if you're listening to this right now, you never heard of that before, go back to some previous podcast episodes, look up where we talk about virtual appointments, because that was one of the biggest game changers that we started. I think it's been about 2 years since we've been doing them.
Yeah.
Or pretty close. And that's doing day 2, day 3. So doing like x-ray review and care plan recommendations, which would be like clinical and financial, all through Zoom. I did one this morning, supposed to have a second one, but they didn't show up to it, which is very rare.
And I was gonna say that's probably the only downfall. That's like the only thing.
But it's super rare.
It is.
It's very rare. And it's funny. I did a podcast with Dr. Kronk last week, and I was telling him about the virtual stuff, and he was really intrigued by it. And he was like, but what's the show rate of patients? And I was like 99.9%. I mean, it's like everyone shows up to it because we have all these systems to ensure that they show up for it.
It's because we have systems. Yeah.
We have systems. They have text message reminders. They have email reminders. And even with all that, you'll still get a couple people that slip through the cracks. That are like, I never got the reminder, or I don't know what the link is. Right. But we have a backup plan for that too. We get it over to them. It makes us start, 3 to 5 minutes late, and it still works out because we have a little buffer built in. But, okay, so virtual appointments was one of the things. And
just small things here and there, but overall working for you and just in a clinic with my teammates, I was gonna say with other staff, but really with my teammates, we all build on each other. And if there's something that's kind of missing as I've been auditing the schedule, between me and the front desk and with Emily, even with Danny, it's like, what can we do to make this better? What can we do to make things easier? And it's small things here and there, but being able to tweak processes has been great. I'm
gonna pull out things that you're saying that I know you think is normal language that everyone understands. Sorry. And no, which is fine because I'll pull that out and then we can elaborate on it, and then other chiropractors and staff that are listening to this can hear it and say, oh, okay, that sounds like a really good process. Here's how we do it, but we're missing, 50% of what you just talked about. So let's talk about, and actually, if you can make a note on here, just on that page, because later when we break this up, it'll be easy to find, is auditing the schedule. Let's talk about what auditing the schedule means. And so let's talk about what it means, like as an overview of what it is in a couple sentences and the benefit, and then let's talk about some of the details going into it.
So auditing the schedule basically entails every day you're going to audit for that day and for the next day. And auditing means that you're looking at travel cards, which I don't know if you want to explain what travel cards are, but
I think most doctors know what a travel card is. So even though a lot of our processes are electronic, there's a couple of paper processes that we maintain because I feel like it makes the systems go smoother. So patients have a written, a printed travel card that has 24 appointment slots on it, front and back, 12 on each side. And various departments in the clinic, as they're going through their care, we can initial, we can sign off, we can make notes. It helps with checking charges, which is another process that we do, and making sure that our billing is accurate and that a person is going through care as they should.
Right. And so I think the biggest thing with a travel card is that different staff will sign off on different services that were rendered. So you sign off when someone's adjusted. I sign off when I do a re-exam. Emily signs when she does functional movement with someone, things like that. And so it helps us keep track of what a patient has done on each visit. And so since we have a 3-in-1 approach with the clinic, we have specified plans for patients. And so most of the time that entails getting adjusted, doing traction, so CBP, FM, and a couple other things that we'll kind of throw in there depending on where they are in their care plan. And so checking every day, making sure that proper services are scheduled for that person, for that appointment, making sure what visit they're on, if they need a re-exam, when they're due for x-rays, certain types of special appointments, so like re-reports, going over x-rays that were taken at the end of a 12-week process, things like that. And so every day auditing the schedule basically just entails making sure that the patient is scheduled for what they should be scheduled for that day.
Okay, so zooming out on that, as far as why a doctor or the staff should care about auditing the schedule, you should care about it because we're assuming that you've put a clinical plan together for your patient. Okay, that's step one. Believe it or not, Jenna, a lot of clinics don't do that.
That would stress me out.
Okay, it's like play it by ear, visit by visit. Yeah. So we teach how to not do that because that's chaos. We don't like chaos. Chaos is unpredictability. You want to predict and know what's going to happen. So one is you have a mapped out game plan for your patient. You also have a mapped out expectation for them for their financial obligation for that care.
Yes.
Whether it's insurance billing, personal injury, self-pay using ChiroHealth USA, whatever, right? Now, the patient has a set plan, a timeline. They have days they're scheduled to come in. They have a certain frequency they're supposed to come in, right? there's a start and a finish date proposed. It's a 12-week process initially where we're going through a corrective phase of care. If that's what we're doing with a patient, which the vast majority of our patients, we go through that type of phase. That's why a lot of people seek us out, or that's what makes us different. So early on, if they don't know that's what they're getting themselves into, we educate them. They go, man, that's awesome. That sounds exactly what I need to do. And, most people are on board with it. So patients going through care, we have to make sure that all the services are rendered like they're supposed to be. The checkpoints are happening. Things are being coded properly, billed properly, scheduled properly, and everything's going as predicted. That's the purpose of auditing the schedule, is to make sure that patients stay on track, right? And to make sure that our schedule, when we look at it, we have the appropriate appointment types and things scheduled that day, and we don't have conflicts in our schedule.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. And we've had in the past, because I'm relatively new to auditing, that wasn't always part of my role at the clinic, but I think the new patient, for my position between me and the front desk, I think it's a great thing for me to do, because I'm the one, we build recommendations together for patients. Like, you're giving the recommendations, I'm just writing them down, but it helps me because I know what's coming up and what to look out for. So does other staff, but it's just an easy process for me to look at. And so part of auditing is looking at the schedule and making sure, like, are we overbooked on certain times? Do we have too many special appointments per shift? Things like that. And so auditing is very valuable in that sense.
And auditing also prevents having POPs.
What's that?
Pissed off patients. Remember? POPs.
That's good. That's good.
POPs, which...
Yeah, we don't want that.
Right. People saying I waited too long, or, and it's usually something where, like, I waited too long, or I came in, it was too hectic.
Right.
And so that's something that you can look at the schedule and you can know this is not going to work.
Yeah.
This is going to be chaos.
Right. And so part of this auditing process is, say it's Monday. I'm auditing again for Monday. I already audited on Friday, but over the weekend, people call in, they cancel. We have people trying to get added to the schedule. And so we re-audit day of, and then I'm also auditing for the next day. So it's not necessarily day by day. I'm also looking at the next day and even the day after that to make sure that we aren't going to run into those problems and have POPs.
So when do you audit? How long does that process take?
So Monday morning, I'm going to audit for Monday, and I'm going to audit for Tuesday. Auditing for Monday, it's a longer shift. We have you and Dr. Zach both in, so maybe 30 to 45 minutes, depending. If I was just coming in freshly, haven't even looked at Monday's schedule, it might take longer than that. But also, since I've been auditing, I can look at a patient and I'm like, I know I audited them last week, so I'm going to just quickly check. I've already, when I first started auditing, there was a lot of things that I was catching that needed to be added, so it took longer. So
things you were catching, like what?
Not proper appointments being scheduled, not future appointments being scheduled. There was lots of patients leaving the clinic without a future appointment. So that's like putting a note on their travel card. That's a process that I was going to say that someone else developed before me, but I've been continuing it and adding onto it, is adding like a little sticky note on their travel card that says schedule this patient. And so when that patient comes into the clinic, front desk grabs their travel card, hands it to them, but then they look at it and they say, oh, we need to get you scheduled for some more appointments. And so that has been really helpful. So that makes auditing easier. Also in the sense where I can look at say they have 20 future appointments scheduled. I can make sure that each appointment has proper services. Their x-rays are scheduled when they should be. It's not like every single time they come in, we're adding a new appointment. So I have to recheck everything, count how many functional movement appointments they've had, count how many times they've done traction. Like, having future appointments scheduled makes that so much easier.
So essentially, even though we have a recall system and we have a text message reminder, we have all these things, this is another checks and balances to see if someone fell through the cracks, or if we find someone, that doesn't have future appointments scheduled. Now, granted, on recent episodes too, we also talked about that we had a change in guard in our front office, and our front office is just running amazingly so much better because we have the right person up there.
Exactly.
Who actually loves the position.
So much so that she's like, she wasn't necessarily going to stay there. She was going to go back into traction. She's like, I want to stay at front desk.
Yeah, which is funny. And
awesome.
she was saying that on Monday, and I said, I can see that because you're rocking it. You're doing awesome. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's great to be in a position where you're doing really well and you can immediately see the fruit of your labor, Yes.
And it helps me and it helps other staff members, because prior to who we have at the front desk now, I would be doing all of these things and it was like all of my efforts are wasted.
Because you found so many repetitious errors that were obviously just not being handled.
Yeah. And it was like, they would take my sticky note off and like over the shoulder or something.
Yeah. So something that I have never executed as well as I should have, I give too many chances, is honestly, at the end of the day, it's like being slow to hire, quick to fire. That whole thing. It's like when you have a solid team and you have all these great team members, and then you have one person that unfortunately is tanking the team because they just don't care. They're not putting the effort in, or they're just not competent, you know, and that's like really no offense to them. They're just put in a position that doesn't work with how they operate. So if that's the case, you're doing the rest of your team a disservice by not getting rid of that person. And even if you feel like you just need another body in the clinic, honestly, I think you're better off modifying your schedule, seeing less patients, spreading things out, giving the existing staff a bonus to say like, you know, hang on until we find a replacement, doing that instead of just going, well, we need that body here. So we're going to keep them here, and they're going to keep screwing up and causing more and more work and frustration for everyone else.
So true.
And, you know, in our last go around, we did that for a couple of months. So, I mean, like, I'm telling you, like, we're definitely not perfect. We've made errors ourselves. And I think it comes from just, it's like hard to accept that when someone has had the appropriate training, that they're still screwing up, because you're like, you just don't care. And it's so weird because everyone else cares and you don't care. And like, I can't compute that.
Exactly.
But
like,
then
it doesn't make sense.
But then finally you just come to the realization that this person just sees this as like working at McDonald's and flipping a burger.
Exactly.
You know,
and that's not how any of the rest of us see it.
No. And so you got to get that person out as soon as possible. And I can say, as of right now, and I'll knock on wood because I want this to continue for the next 20 years, is that as of December 2022, we don't have a weak link on our staff. You know, we have a newer gal that just joined our team who's doing great. She's learning, you know, I mean, I would say she is the least trained up, but she's brand new. Yeah. And so far everything looks good. Yeah. Like she's doing a good job, good effort, good smile, eager, good attitude.
Yes. And those are just some big things that you want to look for with someone that you just recently hired or looking to hire. So
yeah, for sure. Okay. So we talked about auditing. I think everyone understands the auditing process. Well, at least on a bird's eye view, there's a lot of steps to that. The plan is that at some point soon, you know, and definitely reach out to us if you're a member of Move Now or even a non-member. And if you would feel like, hey, put me in line to get a copy of that training manual with training videos and understanding what a, you know, Jenna type position does. If you want to take an existing person you have and mold them into taking on more roles like this or whatnot, let us know in the comments or reach out to myself or Danny and let us know that that's something that you really want to prioritize. And if that's the case, that's going to nudge us more, and it's going to make us step that up in our priority as far as creating that content, because we have a bunch of projects that we're working on. This is one that I've definitely wanted to dial in, because all it would take, honestly, is taking our existing manual, going through it, refining it, make it even better, and then being able to duplicate it so other clinics could put it in place, and then literally run through it step by step like this, make videos of training, and then organize it inside of a membership site where they can log in and they can look at it, and then probably even like a little workbook that they can go through in a workbook. And it would be like a college curriculum course on how to create Jenna, right? Yeah. Right. It'd be awesome. Right. She's like, and then let's give it to someone else and create them. And then you can spend more time just training other people, which would be the plan. Okay. All right. So that's the auditing thing. What's our next topic that we have on there that we can go off on a tangent?
Well, we kind of skipped a couple. I mean, unless if we want to talk about scribing, like in the room,
how about just like
flow.
How about we talk about the flow of a daily visit, like the stuff that you do on a daily, like today is Wednesday. We have what, 2 new patients at the beginning of the shift, or 1 new patient?
1 new patient.
At noon.
Yes.
Right. So we're going in. So like we're literally finishing this podcast. Jenna's probably going straight to the clinic. So this makes for a nice long day for you. Right.
It's okay.
And then I'll get ready and go into the clinic, and I'll be there, you know, a little bit before noon, or I'll walk in right at noon or 12:05. And then we'll start with a new patient. So let's just go through what today's shift is probably going to consist of.
Sure. So new patient shows up at 12, hopefully a little bit early, with paperwork filled out. If not, they'll sit down for a few minutes, fill out paperwork. we'll take them on a tour. So they'll get a nice tour of the clinic, see everything that we have to offer, and hopefully they will become a patient. We always are selective with our wording on tours, but
yeah. So, and just to further explain on that, she's saying that to be consistent with the sense that when someone comes in as a new patient, they're technically coming in essentially for a consultation to see if we can help them and accept them as a patient. Right. And that terminology is reflected back in our paperwork. That's a thing that, we followed with Dr. Fred DiDomenico from Elite Coaching. I think it's a good framework because it sets the stage right from the very beginning, is that everyone that walks through the door is not automatically accepted as a patient. You're accepted based on our ability that we think we can help you. And then two, that you're actually willing to put the work in and do what it's going to take to help yourself.
Yes.
Right. And some people are not there. And if they're not there, and we have 95% of our patients are there, we have to focus our attention on that 5%, and it takes away from the other people that want to be there. So we'd rather identify who these people are and say, you know what, this probably isn't the best fit for you.
Right.
And on the same note, I'll say some people come in like that and they change and they adapt and they realize this is what I want, but we help coach them in a encouraging way so that they can see this potential inside themselves that maybe they didn't see.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Cause like they're walking in thinking this is just another chiropractic clinic, not like this is the fork in the road where my whole life is going to change.
Well, and I think that's part of why having an initial tour is so important, because more times than not, I would say probably like 99% of the time, by the time we meet them in consult, they're like, this is not like anything I've ever seen or experienced before.
Sorry, I feel like I'm sitting really low. I feel like I'm shorter than you, and I'm definitely not shorter than you. Everyone's like, man, Jenna's like 6'4".
I'm 5'5".
Okay. Okay. So sorry. So you're saying people come in and they're like, this is something I've never seen before.
Yes.
It wasn't what I was expecting.
Right. And so I think that's part of why a tour is so important. And we touch on certain aspects of the clinic as we're explaining what we do. And so having a tour to start off is really important. But just talking about like a normal Wednesday. So new patient comes in, tour, we sit down, do a consult with them. Either Dr. Todd and I start together, or I get them started just asking them questions, getting their history, asking them basically why they're here, like what's bothering them, asking lots of questions.
So just a side note on that. For many years, I didn't feel like anyone else could actually do a consultation, and I had to do all of them. Mm-hmm. And it was hard to schedule and put it into the schedule to do it. And honestly, it's one of those things from like a mindset standpoint. Like, I'm almost 20 years into practice right now. I really like adjusting patients and working with patients in the room. And I don't like having to do much else when I'm in the clinic. I like being able to change mindset. And when I'm at home doing virtual appointments and going over x-rays and recommendations, I don't like going over that in the clinic anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to partition my focus.
Yeah.
I also don't really like doing a consultation.
And I love doing consultations.
Right. So it's perfect because you do that part. I come in, do the exam part, double check, you fill me in, give me a summary, which we can actually go through it step by step. But like bird's eye view on this again, and I'm going to say this a lot, like bird's eye view, like a 30,000 foot view or 10,000 foot view or however high up you are. It's that Jenna's starting the consultation. She's doing the majority of it. Sometimes I don't even come into the consultation room and do anything. And the first time I'm meeting the patient is in the exam room / x-ray room. That happened because at first it was always set up where Jenna would come in. She would go through, introduce, explain all this. I would have to come in, explain subluxation, explain what we're doing today, review the history, and then high five and say, okay, I'll meet you in exam.
Yeah.
Right. Then sometimes it was like, ooh, I'm backed up doing something else. Hey, Jenna, can you just handle all of this on your own? She handles it all on her own. Guess what? The outcome, identical,
Literally.
right? So it's the same. So then I'm like, oh, I guess I don't have to go in the consultation room unless I'm, if I'm sitting there and have nothing else to do, I'll come in and say hi. And, but so more times than not now, new patients, the first time I'm meeting them is in the x-ray room. And it was my own headspace thinking I had to come in during the consultation, like that somehow did something magical. I think from a patient standpoint, for the most part, because of the way that Jenna and I do this, it doesn't matter either way. Mm-hmm. And so then what happens, Jenna takes them through history, consultation, explains what we're going to do today. Another staff member comes in, explains like insurance verification and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So like all those things are handled. Patient already knows all the expectations of what's happening. And then I'm meeting them in the x-ray room / exam room and then Jenna basically fills me in front of the patient, or I'll look at the form and try to read through it. And I say try because sometimes I can't read the writing, even though she's got way better writing than I do. But I'll go through and try to read it, and we'll make a little joke about it. And then, like I'll say to the patient, okay, I'm going to see how well Jenna did at gathering information from you, right? And then we run through and do that. And the patient's like, yep, that sounds like it. You got it. Or like, I want to clarify one little thing. We'll make some notes. I go through the chiropractic exam part. So check spine, check posture. I call that out to Jenna as I'm doing it. She's recording it. Then I put BBs on the spine, or I mark up areas where we're going to BB the spine. That's more of a Gonstead, just specific full spine approach, where we're identifying levels of problem on exam. And then we're putting BBs on those problems, large BBs, to indicate this is a potential subluxation, a potential level of involvement in the spine. And then we're putting other BBs, like smaller BBs and little jagged washers and things, on moles and freckles and other landmark scars, so that we can properly identify someone's anatomy, so we can be specific with our adjusting. So if you don't care about specificity, then all the stuff I'm talking about is overkill. We care about specificity, and we think it matters a lot. And I'll tell you, it also makes a great impression on the patient that they understand how much detail we're going into.
Exactly.
But it's not just a show. Like I do it because I firmly believe it matters.
Yes.
If someone's got a spondylolisthesis of L4 and you're adjusting L5 underneath it, you better make damn sure you're not adjusting L4.
Yeah.
Right?
It's important.
Yeah,
Very
super,
important.
super. Or someone has like a surgical fusion and you're adjusting by a surgical fusion. We're BBing all around the scars. Yep. I'm thinking of patients right now that we adjust on a daily basis, that every visit they come in ChiroTouch, we double click on their full spine x-ray. It comes up on a 40-inch vertical monitor. I'm looking at it every time, even if I've adjusted the patient 30 times before, to make sure my landmark, okay, yep, third lumbar, that's right above the screw on that scar right there. I can contact the spinous process specifically and adjust them and not do anything to hurt the patient, right? Yeah. So I know I said I was going to have you go through it step by step. I've kind of already done it. Okay. So Jenna, just to back up, she does the stuff in the consult room. She escorts the patient over into the exam room. Some of you might be thinking, okay, but like what happens if a patient, is coming in and they don't know if they're going to be a patient yet, or it's, a surprise of the fees or the charges or that sort of thing. Truth be told, it doesn't happen very often in our clinic where someone says, oh, that's how much it costs for an x-ray, I'm going to leave. Or, oh, my insurance doesn't cover this, I'm going to leave. It just doesn't happen. And it's probably because the place we're at right now, most of our patients are from referrals. They come in from other patients. They've heard about what we've done. We've built a reputation. And so if we see 5 new patients in a week or 6 new patients in a week, it's pretty much 100% of the time they're all going to start and do some level of care. Yeah. It's not like they're walking out after the consultation and being like, okay, I'll call you later. That happens like once every 4 months or something, If that. Yeah, like super rare. But, on the flip side, Jenna, this isn't something that you're familiar with, but in some clinics, especially when they're just getting started and they're doing a lot of external marketing, and this is all good stuff to do, but it's just something that we're blessed with, that we don't have to do this right now. Or they're doing like Facebook ads, or they're doing something like someone's coming in for some sort of, deal, right? Hey, I'm going to come in for the $29 consultation, right? They're coming in and they're basically like in the mindset of, let's see if you're worthy enough for me to choose you to come in. Even in those cases, that's where the terminology needs to be. This is a patient application system. Yeah. We're going to see if we think we can accept you based on our ability to help you, right, and that you are in the right mindset and ability to actually do what you need to do, because this is a team effort.
Well, I was going to say, if you come in on a deal, or just, I feel like that devalues things, or it lessens the value of care that they can receive.
And part of what we never do in our clinic is we would rather discount some sort of rehab tool, like a home mobility kit, or like a J cane and a double lacrosse ball, or neck trigger point tool. That's something that we would rather do some sort of discount on, rather than discounting care or giving care away. Like care has a set value. It is what it is. There's this added bonus that you can do because you came from X, Y, and Z advertisement. And I'm saying this because in the past, we've done Facebook ads and things in the past. It's primarily Dr. Zach does does some Facebook ads here and there and gets people to come in. However, even the way that he does these though, he does them by doing educational videos, trying to pique someone's interest on the quality of care that we do and trying to speak to that and not just on the deal.
Yeah.
And so it's about attracting the right person.
Absolutely.
You know, so because of that, Jenna can do the whole consultation. The patient's still there in x-ray. They know that they're going to be paying for their care that day because they're there because they want to be there.
And it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
Like we go over cost initially. They come in, fill out their paperwork, go on a tour. They go sit in a consult room, watch some testimonial videos. Someone will come in, one of our staff members will go in and explain cost to them because we've either checked their insurance or if they're going through Chiro Health USA, they'll explain the cost of that. And it's rare. Sometimes patients are like, I just can't do that today. If they're on the fence, if it's something that I can't handle, if I don't feel like I'm going to be enough to handle that objection, we'll have you come in. It's an easy process though, but more times than not, like literally, like I keep saying 99% of the time, they're like, let's do it. I'm here for a reason. I'm here because I need your help.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Yeah. And with all that said, I'm thinking back to when it was like COVID cult craziness, the branch COVIDians. When I remember one time there was this lady that came in, probably had 12 face masks on. Who knows? I mean, she got extra virtue signal points for this. So she had all these face masks on. She was from Sweden, if you remember. No. Yeah, she was from Sweden. And she was like, she came in, she was visiting from Sweden, which is so ironic because, you know, like Sweden, you know, didn't have lockdowns and didn't do all that crazy stuff to that extent. However, you can also argue that their population is more subservient, so they just followed orders. So they didn't have to have lockdowns. But either way, Sweden did way better than everyone else, and they weren't doing the face masks and all that. So she's from Sweden, obviously, you know, was despised that her country was so reckless with this. And, you know, like she just loves Dr. Anthony Fauci. And she came in, and this was during COVID. And this is when we had done away with any sort of face mask. There was no mandate here in Idaho. So like, there's no way in hell that we were going to be doing this for a second longer than we felt like we had to. And I remember she came into the front desk and she was, you know, yeah. And it was something happened. But anyway, like, I think at the time Brandy was office manager and we had Brandy come in and just tell her, cause like, I think she wanted us all to wear face masks or something, or like she wanted to know if all of us took COVID shots. Was that her?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Like, number one, that's none of your business. And two, no.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, if you're looking for someone that did do that, you are absolutely not the type of patient that we want in our clinic. And, you know, sorry that we had a lot of foresight back then that was a bad idea, but now in December of 2022, like you're living under a rock or something if you think that narrative hasn't shifted, that was a bad idea as far as mass experimental gene modification therapy for the whole world. So anyway. Oh, and you know, on that note, let's segue into something else with Jenna. So Jenna was going to be a PA. And if she was going to be a PA, and she got a taste of this because she worked in our clinic during all this COVID madness, she got an idea of how subservient the medical community is to their puppet masters, which is the American Medical Association and Big Pharma.
Yeah. Totally changed my trajectory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we started this podcast, I said I was working in a nursing facility, got this job because I was wanting to become a better applicant for PA school. Throughout COVID and just witnessing firsthand everything that was going on in the healthcare system and how hard they were pushing just these false agendas, I was like, I can't do it. I didn't want to be a part of that system, but two, my eyes were just so open to more of an Eastern medicine approach versus Western medicine. Cause getting my bachelor's in health science, going to a Boise State, which was great school, but it's all Western medicine based. Like that was all I knew. And so not having any experience with chiropractic, not knowing anything about more of like a holistic approach to medicine and pain relief, working for a chiropractor and a great chiropractor, it just totally changed my mindset and shifted my trajectory to not want to go into the healthcare system as a PA. So,
I mean, and man, we're just fortunate that we live in Idaho because
1000%.
Because it's having that mindset and having that conviction, like we would still have no matter where we were at, we could have lost 70% of our patients if we lived in California or if we lived in New York or we lived in one of these other communist hellholes.
Well, and it's firsthand. I am from California, and I have a lot of family and friends that are still there. And so hearing firsthand from them, just their experiences within healthcare, having friends that went into healthcare, it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And it was I've even told Dr. Todd, like, if I didn't work for Gonstead Spine and Wellness for a chiropractor, providing holistic, natural, conservative approaches to medicine and to like pain relief, not really medicine, but I probably would have been one of those sheep wearing masks, pushing the vaccine, which scares the living heck out of me. Like, just scares me, because if I was still in California, I wouldn't have known. I would have probably been brainwashed. It's scary. So it's like, I was like, ooh, 1,000 steps backwards. I am not doing that.
Yeah. It's nuts. No. And that story, I think compels me to talk more about some of, I think, the reasons that us as chiropractors do what we do. And we have to make sure that we don't forget about this. And I remind myself about this constantly and this is chiropractic. This is life. This is everything. It's that for a good portion of my life, especially when we're starting the clinic and we're getting it going, I don't think I was appreciating the process enough. It was this, I needed to get to a certain point. Like that point was the goal. And until I got to that goal, I wasn't satisfied and I wasn't enjoying myself. You know, it was like, okay, I need to get here. And stress and just thinking about it when you're laying in bed and thinking, man, I have so many things I have to do, and just letting it eat you alive. The reality of life for me now, after, owning a business and running a couple different businesses and having a family and having a team, a staff at the clinic and all this, is being okay with the fact that you're never going to be caught up and you're never going to be done with everything. You're never going to sit back and be like, everything is 100% complete. I can put my legs up and just relax. But you have to be okay with that. You have good systems to prioritize and execute what you're doing. But most importantly, you enjoy the process, and you look at all the benefits that happen as you go through the process. You look at these negative things that happen, or these perceived negative things that happen, and you see how you respond to them and how it shapes you as a human being and how you learn from it and grow from it, right? It's really satisfying for me to think that I have people that our paths have crossed, great people. Jenna is like a lifetime friend, like she's someone that I'll know forever. I'm happy that Jenna was impacted in a way that she's doing things to protect her health and her family's health. And she's like another warrior for truth,
Well, and it literally, like, I've told you, I've talked to my family about this. If I didn't work with you when I started, because I was such an advocate for my whole family, my husband's family, my mom back in California, family, friends in California, telling them like the truth. Don't get vaccinated. You really don't need to wear a mask. Like giving them the materials that you gave us and that you were giving patients, COVID Truth website, things like that. And I feel like that also, you affecting me, changed their lives as well.
Which is awesome. And this whole thing, and granted, we had an episode we did just on this, several episodes ago. We had Trainer Tony on. I did this with Danny, talking about all the stuff with COVID and kind of our experience with it. This was, I think, the hill to die on. This was the big challenge that we were presented with in our life, that we were waiting for that historical event to see, okay, how do you respond to this? How do you react to this? Do you, abandon all logic and everything you knew in the past and be like, oh, virology has changed overnight because Anthony Fauci and Big Pharma and all these, corporations all came together and included and said so. And this person on the news is smarter than I am, and they're not a healthcare practitioner. And then, and all these other people are being censored, and that's okay. Like, a lot of people justified that was okay, which is nuts. And then a lot of other people said, this doesn't compute and I'm not going to stop talking about it. And yeah, I know it's exhausting, but this impacts our freedoms, our children, our future. So you have to be vocal about it. Again, I'm happy that we live in Idaho, because it would be harder to do that in other states.
yeah.
It would. I guarantee you, I would do it no matter where I was
Right.
at, even if it shut our clinic down, even if I had to, do like what some of these other doctors have done, where they lose their practice and then they just change to full-time public speaker and
Right.
interviewer, and they find some other passion that they can use, to try to spread truth and knowledge and help other people. So yeah, so I mean, like, back to the first thing I was saying, not to get too far off of topic, it's that enjoying the process and enjoying the fruits. Again, I know I said that before, the fruits of all the effort that you're putting in, knowing like Jenna is impacted, knowing that the rest of our team to varying degrees is impacted in a positive way,
Yes.
so that their circle of influence can benefit from this. And even if it's just them understanding, being a doctor of cause and thinking of cause and chiropractic, and we can help pregnancy and help little babies and help, that. And then just coming to the reality check of like, you don't need to rely on chemicals and drugs and things.
Yeah.
You just need to put healthier stuff into your body. And so if you accept that thought process, when something comes along, like a big scary virus that everyone on the media is literally reading the same script, and so now problem, and then the solution is now put this experimental thing into your body, and don't listen to any of these other doctors that have real world experience with stuff that's got a track record that's actually working. You can use that logic and you can put it side by side and say, does this mesh or does this conflict? And if it conflicts, you should probably ask more questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and even kind of, not necessarily COVID set aside, but kind of working in a chiropractic clinic, seeing patients come in that most of the time they come in, they're hurting, they're in pain, getting adjusted, going through remodeling their spine, going through exercise, functional movement, and just firsthand, all of us that work at the clinic getting to witness them just drastically improve their life. They're out of pain. They're more functional. They're doing things that they weren't doing before, like going to the gym, walking their dogs, picking up their kids. Being able to witness that firsthand is like, whoa, this is different than getting a shot, getting prescribed a pill, going to the doctor and saying, I don't know what to do. And they're like, well, you can just go do this, or like take this, get this shot. It just amplifies what you were saying about COVID and everything, that it was just brainwashing people. So
yeah, and seeing those things and experiencing that in clinic too, I think is cool for our staff, for your staff, because they didn't go to chiropractic school, yet they still get to, I think, experience the best part of chiropractic and natural real healing, is that they get to see people's lives transform. And there's nothing more rewarding than seeing that on a daily basis. Like there's shifts where Jenna and I are like lost in our, okay, how many patients do we have left on the schedule? Okay, we got to re-examine this time and x-ray this time. Okay, it's going to be a little tight here. And then you have a patient that comes in that tells you this testimonial of how much better they're doing. And it's like, it like slaps us both in the face.
And we're like almost crying. Cause
Yeah,
like, at least
right.
me, I get so emotional, especially cause a lot of these people, I get to know them firsthand. I'm like one of the first people that gets to hear their story and why they're here. And then weeks, days, months, however long later, and they're just doing so much better. It is like, this is why I love doing what I do.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, we literally get to go to work, I'll put that in quotes, in work every day and hang out with people that are pretty much our friends, like our patients. Like vast majority of our patients are just cool people that we get to know, and we get to help them improve the quality of their life.
Yeah.
I mean,
at the end of the day,
how cool is that?
Amazing.
Right.
It is just so important.
And that's our job, and we get paid to do that.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, that's just like a byproduct of, it's like one day all of us are going to get old. And when you're old and you look back and you look at what you did in your life, you're going to say, did I waste it away doing something I hated that didn't have any purpose? Or did I do something that made a difference? Like just on a totally side note, but a couple days ago, a second cousin of mine just passed away, and his funeral and everything was done on Zoom because it was out in California. So anyway, I went over to my parents' house. We watched it on Zoom. And, people were getting up and they were saying nice things about this person. He was a very sweet person. I didn't know him very well, but I knew in all the interactions I had with him, he was just always like very kind and very understanding and warm and welcoming and all this. And, I was just listening to that and I'm just thinking, man, it makes you think like, what are people going to say about you at your funeral?
So true.
What are people going to say about you after you're gone, and hopefully you made enough of an impact, not for your ego of having people say how great you are, but hopefully you made enough impact that like when you die, you're not just immediately forgotten, that
Absolutely.
right. And unfortunately, if you flip burgers at McDonald's, even if you're the best burger flipper ever, like there's someone else that's just going to come and fill that spot. It's tough to have a purposeful connection in a lot of different jobs out there.
Well, and kind of sidestepping from that, it's still related, but having people that like staff, hiring people that can relate to your patients and create an impact on them. It's like it just all trickles down. You've made an impact on me. I've made an impact on you. You've made an impact on all your patients. I'm just thinking of like all of our patients that they'll come into the adjustment room and they're like, oh my gosh, I love so-and-so. Like, I'm so glad that Emily's back here, or that new girl at the front. Like, she is so awesome. I came in, she had a big old smile on her face. Like things like that. It's being able to work with people that have a good energy and are just pleasant to be around, and they make positive impacts on our patients, and then in turn our patients make positive impacts on us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, changing topics, let's see if there's anything else to round this out with. I know we're all over the place with the topics. I think we have some level of outline that we followed, but that's also the format of how we do these podcasts, is that I'm trying to bring on each person from the team and interview them and have them talk about other topics. So like Jenna, I'll get Jenna on again and we'll just do a whole episode just on one specific thing. Because this is the first time you've come on this in this format, right? Minus the one that Danny and Emily and Jenna did for my birthday. There was like a podcast episode they did for my birthday at Danny's house. They passed around a microphone, and half the time they forgot to like hand the microphone over and stuff, right? But that one you can watch too, which was really cool, which was really nice. They did like a birthday tribute, which was awesome. But yeah, so comment and reach out and let us know what other topics maybe you want to see us go in more detail with, especially as we bring on our team and you get to know who they are. Jenna, my assistant new patient coordinator, x-ray assistant manager. I mean, like lots of different roles, right? Like what other things do you want to hear her talk about? And we can dedicate more time to those specific topics.
I can go into a lot of detail for sure per position. Yeah, there's a lot.
She can. And then you could probably hear in our interaction, even as we're talking here, like I force myself to slow down and talk slower when I'm doing things. But when I talk with Jenna, because she talks fast and I talk fast, which is really helpful, because like we can almost, like if we could figure out how to not even have to talk and just be like, eh, and then it's like all the information just comes over, you like grunt, and then you just like imported,
literally, just a download.
Like in Matrix, I know Kung Fu, right? Like just immediately know what the other person is thinking. Most of the time, Jenna and I are so synced up in our systems that a lot of the stuff we already know what's going on ahead of time. But the nice thing too that I'll say is, from a doctor standpoint, we all have different personalities. If you're a slower doctor, you can get someone that's quick on their feet like Jenna, but if you can't keep up with them, it might be a little frustrating for them. If you're someone who's really quick, getting someone very quick is good. Like trying to match those personalities, because in Jenna's position and how we work together on a daily basis, I spend more in-person time with Jenna than anyone else on the team. She's in the room with me. We're working together with new patients. We're working together on reports. She's emailing me over stuff on the days I'm working from home. So it's like really making sure that you can jive with that person. And, I've had scribes before, which don't really take on all these roles in the past. And I've had people in the past that, I've had decent working relationships with, but really nothing to this level. And it's just finding that right person, because like everyone else I've had in the past, like I think back to the people I've had in the past, and a lot of them I try to like self-reflect, like, am I driving these people crazy? Is it me? Am I that hard to work with? And then I'm like, no, I just think I have pretty clear expectations, and a lot of these people just are not up to par on what I need.
And I think part of that is when you're hiring people, and also being able to move people around in the clinic, like knowing where they fit, And just because I'm good at being your assistant doesn't mean I would necessarily be great at the front desk. Who knows? But also I think being selective with who you hire and not just like, oh, we need to hire someone. Their resume matches what we need to be a scribe or to fit this position doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to work. And so just being, I think, mindful of that, for all the other doctors and stuff out there, like, knowing that just because you hire a scribe and they look great on paper doesn't mean that you guys are going to jive, and that doesn't mean that you have to keep them in that position. Right. Because you spend half your life with me, and if I was a bump on a log, it probably wouldn't be very fun and not as enjoyable.
Sure. Yeah, and that's also not to say like everything's perfect all the time. I mean, there's times like I'm in a bad mood and I break my own rule and I bring it in the shift, and Jenna like identifies it with me and kind of like gives me a look or something, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sorry. And then there's times she'll come in and it's like the same thing, but in most cases I feel like I probably said something to stress her out, so it's probably my fault. But
not always. But you're also really good at being like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm having a really bad day. But just you asking and being able to identify that with me is important.
Yeah, I think so.
Things are great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we're right about an hour, so we'll wrap it up at this point. So we're not trying to be like a Joe Rogan 3-hour podcast or anything.
So long.
Yeah. You could do it though for 3 hours. You could see how you could just keep going, right?
Like, I don't have to go to work.
We have to actually go see patients today.
Yeah. That'll be great.
So we're going to wrap it up. So again, thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming on and doing this, Jenna.
Thanks for having me.
It was awesome. Hopefully our audience got a lot of little topics, I guess, excited about or questions or things that they can start thinking about. Yeah. And if you have someone in the clinic right now that's in the position like this and you find anything that we talked about to be something that you could potentially bring in to improve, reach out to us. Let us know what you want to see more of. If you're a Move Now member, you can always reach out to Danny. If you're not a member and you're contemplating and you want to know if this is right for you, you can also reach out to Danny. Danny's our office manager and our doctor support. So about 40% of her life is just talking with doctors and working in the office, and the other is working in our clinic and doing stuff virtually, because she's the virtual hybrid office manager, which we did our last podcast, or like a couple episodes ago we did on that. All right, I'm going to roll the outro. There's a couple things. You can get a free book. Okay, so there's a link for the book that you hear in the outro, and then also we have a 30-minute pre-recorded demo that shows our Move Now University platform, like what that looks like. So you can check out both these things if you're not already a member and if you don't already have the book. So again, thank you, Jenna. We're going to roll the outro. And with that said, we'll see you on the next episode. Want more Move Now secrets? If so, then go get your copy of my best-selling book and watch my 30-minute behind-the-scenes Move Now demo. My book is called Move Well Secrets, and you can get your free copy at book.movenowyou.com. And watch the 30-minute demo of our exclusive doctor training portal at demo.movenowyou.com. With these two resources, you'll find my top 22 secrets that we've used to build one of the smoothest running, results producing, and super profitable exercise departments within a chiropractic clinic in the entire profession.